Kate, let's start with you. What does this mean? Conditions. What kind of conditions are we talking about that could be attached to this CR?
That's a mystery. That I think we're still trying to find out. He's also talked about, putting pay-fors on for some of the aid to Ukraine or Israel. So there's a lot of unknowns here that we still need to work through. Not a lot of meat on the bone yet.
Not a lot of meat on the bone, but you wonder if does that mean cuts? Does that mean some sort of new check, accountability on money that's being spent, an audit? What do they have in mind? He says Chip and Byron are working on this. The last time Chip Roy wrote up a CR, it didn't pass.
Well, I'm not expecting it would be extra spending, right? I mean,
Right.
Just given new Speaker Johnson's record, what he said in the past on, government funding and the deficit and his worries about that, he's looked at, making cuts even to entitlement programs, floating that out there. So I think there's probably a lot on the table, at least rhetoric-wise.
Yeah.
Nancy, let's bring you into this conversation. What does the White House do in this situation? You had Speaker Johnson going over to President Biden yesterday. They obviously don't want to shut down, but there's not going to be conditions when you look at the Democratic Senate.
Absolutely. And President Biden has really made a huge effort, even predating Johnson becoming the Speaker of the House, to make sure that funding for Ukraine stayed constant. He gave a major speech on it a few weeks ago, and he has really urged Congress to continue to support Ukraine. I think they will continue to push with that. What the White House has done in this situation in the past has been not really to negotiate with House Republicans on this. It's to try to build public pressure to make them act. And I think that we'll see them try to do the same again. Of course, this is a brand new speaker, so President Biden is working with really an unknown negotiating partner.
Yeah, and that's why it was interesting to hear him speak to some of these issues last night, not just the potential CR, but also the supplemental budget request. Listen to what Speaker Johnson said to Fox News about how to handle, remember, this was going to be combined, Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, border security. Here's how he sees it.
Our consensus among House Republicans is that we need to bifurcate those issues. The American people are demanding some real accountability for the use of those dollars. Now, we can't allow Vladimir Putin to prevail in Ukraine because I don't believe it would stop there, and it would probably encourage and empower China to perhaps make a move on Taiwan. We have these concerns. We're not going to abandon them, but we have a responsibility, a stewardship responsibility over the precious treasure of the American people.
All right, so today's program is brought to you by the word bifurcate. That's the one that's been resonating ever since then. This idea of bringing Israel funding alone to the floor. We talked to Tim Burchett from Tennessee earlier today. That's what he wants to see. That's what a lot of conservative Republicans want to see. Isn't going to fly in the Senate. It's not going to work for the White House. So does it simply slow down the response to Israel?
I mean, it could, because I think that President Biden really wants that Ukraine aid to go out, and will try to keep all of that sort of in the same bill, all of it together, so that the Republicans aren't able to break it off.
Kate, what does this mean for, obviously it's a difference between you have the White House up against this new speaker, Mike Johnson, who they're just getting to know, but this is very different opinion than what his colleague, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, has to say in the Senate. Mitch McConnell wants to see a massive package that protects America's national security interests and partners abroad.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing with this Ukraine aid. It doesn't just divide Republicans and Democrats on the Hill. It's also showing, some divisions within the Republican Party. And I think that, a lot of these very conservative Republicans, they don't want to have to vote for Ukraine aid, but they don't want to not vote for Israel aid. So by separating them, then it's an easier vote for some of the opponents of giving Ukraine aid. So he's, maybe they'll have to go through a process where they do a vote like that, and then they put it together as a big package. Again, but we'll be watching these machinations. It's hard to know how this will turn out.
I mentioned Congressman Tim Burchett. He thinks this is totally political. You're trying to force us to vote for Ukraine by giving us no choice but to vote for Israel. Here is what he told us earlier today on Bloomberg Radio.
Why would you, knowing that there's going to be an objection. Why would the President of the United States allow that bill to come out with Ukraine money tied to it? Because he wants to put somebody in a political spot. And that's the only reason. Cut the BS, send 3 different bills over. That's all you got to do. 3 sheets of paper.
Of course, those 3 sheets of paper may not all pass individually. This is a bit of the way Washington works, right? But the Biden administration was going broader than that to say that, in fact, they're related, that this is about national security for the United States.
Yeah, that's absolutely the point that they want to make. They want to say that, it's important that we support Israel. It's also important that we support Ukraine. If we don't support Ukraine, we'll see, Putin's influence increase. And so they're trying to tie it all in the national security bow. But Republicans, we'll see if they're moved by that argument. I do think House Republicans are going to get a ton of pressure on that because, as we've talked about, the Senate Republicans, are not really in the same place as they are.